This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Mom, thank you for simply trying, for always admitting that you didn't know it all, but you learned from one child to the next. Thank you for being all examples of both what to do and not do. You gave me permission to become the best parts of me. You encouraged me to stand firm on the foundation of God, believing that if I followed Him, He would keep me. He has. I have watched you grow and evolve my entire life. This allowed me to know that change is continual and ever possible. You made me a woman that is resilient and wise. The journey through childhood was not simple, but I thank you for being the right mom for the trip. You are my mother, peace, prayer warrior, and messy friend when I need a laugh. I am the result of the greatest prayer you have ever prayed. Thank you. Trachelle. Valeria interviews Trachelle Thomas, M.E.D., LPC. She is a licensed professional counselor, educator, advocate, change agent, speaker, and owner of Progressing on Purpose Counseling. She is a Houstonian that has always had a heart for helping, healing, and teaching. She is a daughter, sister, aunt, wife, friend, and more. Her private practice birthed out of her desire to help the community as well as herself. She believes in the power of healing and being truthful with oneself to do the work. She stands by the fact that mental health awareness and practice is an art form that governs every aspect of our lives. She campaigns for accountability, growth, discipline, and reflectiveness. She stands by the belief that leading a life with a servant heart will bring about change that will ring through generations to come. This soon-to-be author has a mission and vision of being purposeful and intentional. Meet Trachelle at popcounseling.com. Here's an interview with Trachelle Thomas.
In your own words, who is Trachelle Thomas?
Trachelle Thomas is a person whom grew up not liking herself, not understanding who she was or why the things around her was happening. And then she grew up to kind of figure out her own individuality and becoming a teacher and a school counselor, and then a licensed professional counselor, and learning how to give back and help people in the areas that I needed help in, that often were overlooked, not intentionally, but because self-awareness is big and you can only get that from yourself. And so I had to learn how to dig deep into my own self and then deal with those matters as they came. And so now I am a person who believes that anything's possible, and whatever you put your mind to, such as me starting my practice, I didn't think I could do it at first. And now I just know that once you just take the step, all the other steps happen.
Would you say that what you do today is the purpose of your life, your mission, or do you have a different name for it?
No, I think what I do now is the purpose for my life, because it's the thing that I could do for free, although I don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's
that's
the thing that I get a joy out of doing. It's the thing that I know that I'm supposed to be doing, because everything lined up perfectly.
I see. And that's another question that I often ask. How do we know for sure when we are living our purpose? It's something that you would do for free and not require, almost like it's something that it gives you so much joy that even if you're not compensated, it's okay. Are there other signs, Trachelle, when it comes to purpose?
I think the thing about knowing your purpose, because it's really a hard answer sometimes because people wait for the one particular thing. But I think that when something is for your purpose, it comes naturally to you. You don't have to, you're not trying to be like other people. You're not tapping into other people's gifts. So it's like you can see that your gifts are being used freely. And so that's when you know that you're in alignment. Because when you're not in alignment, it means that you're going against something. So when you're doing something that's not your purpose, it's always going to seem like something is just not right. And so whenever you're in alignment, you'll see the flow. Things will become clearer to you, and your awareness will be a little bit higher.
Self-awareness is crucial. I absolutely agree. You just reminded me of something else. I noticed that some people around me, sometimes they confuse purpose with happiness, in a sense of, if I make enough money, then I will find my purpose, in the sense of being happy. Then I'll have the house that I want to have. I will travel. I will do this and that. So how do we know the difference between finding purpose and being happy?
I think the confusion, and you've made a great point about saying that when people say, if I have this, if I have that, then that'll be my happiness, because we, as humans, a lot of the times attach happiness to material things or things that are tangible. Purpose has nothing to do with things that are tangible at all. I think that when you find your purpose, and that's why I said, hey, I think I would do it for free, because it's something that I like to do, but it's also something that even there's times where I'm like, should I change my fees? Should I do this? And should I do that? And I always see that everything that needs to happen or that needs to be taken care of happens, and it gets taken care of. And I haven't had to do anything related to the monetary value of anything. So I feel like the rewards, like you're rewarded for your purpose, and things will happen in ways where you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that happening. And so happiness is not tangible in itself. There's a lot of people who are extremely wealthy, have the best of the best things, and are truly unhappy.
There is a passage in your bio that caught my attention, as I mentioned off record. You say, she stands by the fact that mental health awareness and practice is an art form that governs every aspect of our lives. So, mental health awareness in practice, how do you describe this practice and awareness of a mental health?
The awareness and practice of mental health is because I tell people all the time in therapy, like, coming to see me is not going to fix you.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
You have to practice the things that you come to learn, and you have to be self-aware, because if you're not self-aware, that's where the mental breakdown comes from. Because oftentimes, a lot of us are living other people's lives. We're living other people's mind space. We're living out other people's dreams. And that's why some people miss their purpose. So the self-awareness, the mental health awareness, is being honest to say, hey, something inside of me, something is not right. I'm not in alignment. I don't feel fulfilled. I am sad. I do feel lonely. So whenever you can be able to tap into your own feelings, and be honest about them, I think that's when you become more aware, and then you're open. So you're more open to receiving tools and treatment. And when you get them, you're using them. You're not just learning them, like you're deliberately intentional about progressing on purpose.
If there is a description or perhaps a destination for mental health, what would that be, Trachelle?
I would probably say the place where, you know how a lot of times when people get, like, you finally get that good sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
and
yeah.
you can feel like, oh my God, from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head, I feel like I'm anew. That's when you tap into the new sense of mental health, the destination where you feel anew, where you feel like you're completely rejuvenated because you're doing the work from the inside out.
I wonder if there is a place or a space per se that's not really a space, is a way of being that is beyond mental health, in a sense of always having peace, even though we didn't sleep well, even though we are going through challenges. Have you found that place? I'm speaking actually from a place of spirituality, because that's where I come from. So yeah, talk to me about that for a moment.
So I think that a lot of the time, and I ask my clients a lot when, like, and part of our opening interviews is, do you have a belief system? Because I find oftentimes that the human nature, the education, the academics, all of those things are fine. But if you don't have anything that grounds your spirit, that's where you have a mental breakdown, where that's where, you know, the enemy, as they say, comes in to attack you, because you have nothing guarding you spiritually. You have nothing that you deem as I had a kid tell me one time, I wish I had religion or some kind of religion, because then I would have something that would give me peace and tell me right from wrong. And I really thought about the fact that, you know, a lot of the times I'm able to go into a place with God where I am more sacred than being in therapy, where I am more at peace, because he's a God who, he says, ask me questions, seek and you will find, and these different things. And so a lot of the times I'm able to tap into my spirit when the books don't work, when the reading doesn't work, when the outside sources are no longer available. It's that one thing that I know, that in the closet, in the car, in the school, in the job, like I'm always able to go to that place with that God to do the work that I need to be done.
I love that combination of science and spirituality, psychology and spirituality. They just go beautifully together. And with that in mind, I do have another question for you about this relationship, if you can call it relationship. It seems to me like God, it's here. It never left us. It's always there, and it was never hidden, but we are not really, sometimes we're not open to see it. So when did you establish this trust in God? There was a moment in time, or?
I was small, and a young girl, and I always grew up in church, but it wasn't the aspect of church. I used to hear things, and I used to always like wonder where was it. You grow up thinking, it's your conscience. It's your conscience talking to you. And I grew up understanding the difference when some people say, well, I don't know what God's telling me. I don't know. And it took me to get older and things to happen for me to realize, like, that's what that has been this whole time, that always made me make the right decision. The thing that said go left when I wanted to go right. And so I was probably about as young as about 5, and I sung my first song at church. And after I sung the song, it was almost like I could hear that the words were resonating in me, and it gave me peace. And so I always knew that there's things that humans can't explain. There's things that will happen in your life that, you know, it had to have been something bigger than a human that could be able to do that. And so I was able to recollect moments in time, down to 5 years old, where I know there was no way that happened by luck or by chance. Right. That had to have been grace.
It's very intuitive and it's very personal, isn't it, Trachelle?
Absolutely.
There's no way.
Yeah, and you know, and it's crazy because they say, I always would hear older people say, well, you got to live a little bit longer and know God for yourself. And that is absolutely true, because whatever your God is, you have to know him for yourself. You're not getting anywhere on the strength of someone else's faith.
Another open question, since we're talking about God, this is very open. What, where, and who is God to you?
To me, God is spirit. He is all things. He's omnipresent. He is exactly what you need him to be when you need him. And by that, I also mean God has a way, in my opinion, as being the therapist and putting that there for you. So he's like the waymaker all the time. And he's the spirit that guides you. He's the voice that you hear. He is the person who gives you the ability to know that in the end, all things will work together for your good. And I believe that God is a source. And he's the source of all things, but I love that he gives us free will. So he is a God who allows us to have our own free will, because in that case, we get to trust him. We get to choose him, because he doesn't have to beg us for anything. He doesn't owe us anything. So he allows us to make the choice to receive him, and to be open to his will and to his way.
Wow.
And that's how I see God.
Yes, that makes sense to me from the perspective of being here in the human body, because was one of my biggest questions to myself. What am I doing here? Going through all these challenging experiences, this suffering, the inevitable ones, and then the sufferings that I'm choosing to take upon. So my question was always why? And then changed, of course, and evolved. But I wanted to ask you another question now. From your perspective, so God has given us the free will to be here in a human body, to go through the human experience in order to know who God is. That's the only purpose of this experience? Or do you see something else behind it all?
I think that is not only to go through the experience, but you know how the word says, to love like Christ loved, and to love and forgive like God forgives us. So it's almost like your own children. You birth them, and then you hope they grow up, and you want to send them out into the world because you want the world to see what you did. And I feel like that's God's way of saying, here are my children, and they are behaving, they are walking in alignment with me, they are choosing my way. And so now you get to experience a little bit of me while you're still in the human form before you get here. And so I think that that's why he gives you the will, and he desires that you choose him, but you're a reflection of him. So like I say all the time, like, Lord, like, help people to see you in me by what I do, so that they know, like, oh, he must be good, or he must be great, and he must be powerful. So it's not only just to be here, it's to be a reflection as best as possible for him.
So let me ask you another open question. What are some of the obstacles to healing? Why do some people choose not to heal? Which is almost like, why do some people choose not to be the reflection of God? To me, healing and spirituality is one.
Well, I think that the reason why people choose not to heal is because oftentimes people don't know how. And oftentimes we all avoid things that we don't know how to do. We like to tap into the places where we are best. And so when you can't heal is when you don't know how. And also, everybody knows healing means to conquer and to settle in on and to dissect the places you don't want to go, and to do the work that is going to cause you to be uprooted. Because I say that people who don't like healing like to live inside of their excuses. So if I change, if I heal myself, I can't use that as an excuse anymore. Like, I can't tell people why I'm not doing this, why I'm not getting up doing that, why I'm not making this choice, because I could hide behind my trauma all the time. So if I, get upset with God and I just choose to just ignore him and not follow him, now I have a right to do whatever I want, because there's nothing governing me now. And so healing is avoided because it keeps people in the space that they are comfortable by not doing the work.
That is sad to hear, isn't it? That we become comfortable with pain and suffering, basically. Do you see pain and suffering as the same concept, or pain, it's something different from suffering?
I think pain and suffering in hindsight could be different, because you can heal and experience your pain and allow yourself to go there, but you don't allow it to take you down. And you don't sit in it, and you don't let it fester. And so I think that pain and suffering are separate, because everyone experiences pain, not everyone suffers.
That is so true. So suffering, in a way, it's just letting pain stay. It's not going through the
Yeah.
process, the painful process, right? It's basically not open that door to healing. It
Correct.
makes a lot of sense. So you're writing a book that,
Yeah.
speaking of healing, that is titled The Little One Holding You Back. That could be the
Yes.
working title too. You're not sure at this point as we spoke. But talk to me about what the book is about, the main inspiration for writing this book, and also the intention, Trachelle.
The reason for writing the book has been in my head for a really long time. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I got to get this out of my head. But writing it came from being the little girl younger and being able to be honest as I got older and realizing there are so many people around you that are just like you. And there are so many people that are suffering, and there is a lot of grown adults who are still childlike in nature because the little person that they're carrying around is not healed yet. So they're old enough, they're big, they're grown, they work, and they're still just this little kid kicking and screaming around. And it needs to be healed in order for them to get fulfilled or find purpose in those places. And so the book is about many different trials and tribulations as a younger person growing into an adult and working through them. And so the book is just kind of life stories of me and other people around me and life in general, and being able to say, hey, there's somebody else like you, but there's also healing available.
So let's see, before we talk about a little bit more about the book, I wanted to go through some of the services that you offer. So you offer individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and you also engage in
Public
speaking,
speaking, yeah.
right, which is wonderful. Are you open to new clients at this time? And do you offer sessions online and offline as well?
I do. I offer face-to-face and virtual sessions. The world of COVID changed a lot, a lot in everyone's lives, and so I think that allowing people to have that option is important. And so I do.
Let's go back to the book. So the section that you sent to me, you begin with a letter to your father and mother, your mother and father in order.
Mm-hmm.
I love the letter that you wrote to your mother. I was just reading it and kind of feeling those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you, what insights have you gained even by writing that piece? Because it's very profound the way you speak of her. There's a section where you say, Mother, you encouraged me to stand firm on the foundation of God. The journey through childhood was not simple, but I thank you for being the right mom for the trip. You are my mother, peace, prayer warrior, and messy friend when I need a laugh. I am the result of the greatest prayer you have ever prayed. Thank you. You said a lot more than that, but this section caught my attention.
I think my mother is kind of like, in my opinion, everyone's mother's great to them.
Yeah.
But I think my mother's great in the sense because my mom she never hid or shied away from things that she did wrong, or when there was a parenting mistake, or, she never showed signs of her, like, well, one would say, because my mom was a parent young, and so, but she never showed signs of that. It was never an excuse. It was always a reason to, you push forward, you do this, and just because I didn't doesn't mean you won't. And so my mom ensured that she counted up everything that she felt like she did not achieve or did wrong, and she ensured that we did it. And so I think that is because there's a lot of parents who are jealous of their children, or they desire their children to stay or be exactly like them. And my mom went out of her way to make sure that I did everything the opposite and also better. And she taught me how to love like Christ, and I'm still working on it.
Yes, we are, for
And
sure.
she taught me that to love to a different place. And so I'm proud of that, to be able to have that consistent, and my mom's not biased. That's one thing I appreciated. It was never we were right because we were her kids or she defended us. My mom held us to a high standard, and I think it helped.
Yeah, she was fair and
Yeah.
wise. That's wisdom to me,
Yeah.
very much. And I guess now it's a good time to talk about your father and the imprints that he left in you, unfortunately. So, talk to me about how that influenced you, him not being present in your life.
As a young kid, I remember I used to make like very bad remarks or say little snippet things about him because he was absent, and my mom would always stop me. And that's one thing I'll remember forever. My mom would always say, "You better find a way to find some respect because you would not be here had he and I not gotten together, whether it was lasting for a long time or not, you would not be alive. And despite how you may feel, we're not going to harbor on his choices. You need to make sure, but you always find some respect though, because although he's absent, he's still your father." And so that stuck with me. But as I got older, I learned how to forgive him and not be upset with him. I learned how to accept his being as a person, and not to condemn him for what he didn't know how to do. And so I grew to say, well, what did he know how to do? Well, what did he do? And I was like, well, he stayed away. What does that mean? He stayed away because instead of inflicting on me what he did not know how to do, he just did nothing. And for me, I feel like that's great because I don't have bad memories. I just have a memory of an absence. I don't have, oh, he did this to me or he didn't tell me the truth or, so and so forth. So I don't have things that I can really point out by experience to say that he did wrong. I just know his absence. And I felt like that was fair enough to me, because things can always be worse. I could have been subjected to things that I can account and recount, and it could have been something different. So I try my best not to change my life in my mind. Like, if I had a different this or if I had a different that, I just try to take it for what it is. And so he's a human being and he is a person and he has his own story, and his story may not have allowed him to be the dad that I may have wanted or someone else may have thought he should have been. But I just thank him for helping me get here.
That's a powerful insight that your mother didn't put you against your father, right? And that happens a lot, unfortunately. The resentment, right? And we are passing on the legacy again. So I guess the question that comes to me is, how was the forgiveness process like? And for those who are listening, how do we learn to forgive people like who have done things that they were not aware of? I love the way you say that, right? We all have our own stories and we don't do things, or we do things for a reason. But how was it for you, the forgiveness process, and how do we learn to do the same?
I learned to forgive him by having the conversation with him. I had to be bold enough to say, okay, well, it's time to talk to him when I got to high school, and I had to be open in that conversation to not be closed down and closed minded, because I wasn't going to get what I needed. And so I was able to have the conversation. It may not have changed a lot, in life. It didn't create a ginormous new relationship. But what it did was it allowed me to speak a piece. It allowed me to not be silent. I was able to express myself. And then I was able to forgive him because I knew at some point I was going to need forgiveness from somebody for something. so I needed to extend the same grace. I always try and I teach people to extend the same grace you ask for. And so that helped me. And I just knew if I held on to it, if I just held it in the palm of my hand and didn't let it go, I wasn't going to get far. Because that was going to just be one of my excuses that I made. This didn't happen because I didn't have a dad, and I didn't want excuses.
And you said that earlier about the obstacles to healing, right?
Right.
Those excuses just to keep ourselves comfortable in that place that we believe we know. So it's actually that we think we know, unfortunately. So it is actually being open to the unknown as well, right, Trachelle? Healing being open to life and not closing
Yes.
doors. Another passage that you write that caught my attention, you say, every woman can recall at least one time where she has let a man mistreat her just to have one around because their dad wasn't. Yeah, that also stopped me because it has been my case. So, what is your suggestion for people like myself who have been through a lot of trauma, abuse and trauma in childhood, and it's still have been doing and still doing a lot of the healing work and spiritual work, but I'm still seeing the reflection of those traumas here.
I think the thing I would say is not only boundaries, because boundaries are important, but if you don't have an expectation, then you don't have a boundary. so
Yeah,
so
right.
you have to grow to understand what do you expect out
Mm-hmm.
of people. And it's not, and I know people say, well, if you expect things out of people, you're gonna get your feelings hurt, or you're gonna get hurt regardless.
It's true.
Life is not gonna spare you because you
Yeah.
don't have expectations. I think the expectations for is not for others, it's for you. I expect this, and so you don't have to do that. Just know that encountering me, this is what I'm expecting. And so I think to have the expectation creates the boundaries, and so then that people get in line and people respect, because it's almost like being a child. People only do children will do with and to people things that they know that they can. So they know that they're not going to ask this parent for the candy at nighttime because they know what this parent's going to say. So people will know, hey, I'm not going to yell at her because I know she's not going to accept me yelling. So people only do to you what you let them.
I needed to hear that. That's a big one, and a tough one still.
Yes.
I guess because of fear, isn't it? It seems like, I mean, in my case, seems like I'm afraid of, my mother used to be very violent. So I couldn't really express myself or create any expectations, as
So
you
that's the
say.
little girl part of you. She's muted and fearful, and she was taught to know to lay low. Lay
Yes.
low.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen, and so that's the part of you that needs that to get cleaned up, so you don't have to tuck your head a little bit, or walk on those eggshells.
Oh my God, Trachelle, yes. And I've been doing so much work, and I'm engaged with all these amazing conversations here. I write and I do a lot of spiritual work, but it's not that's not enough. It's just that I have to go deeper, and that's what it is to get that courage, as
Yes.
the child who suffered, who couldn't speak, and now she's still here and afraid of speaking her truth. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I needed to hear though. Let's see. I'll let you know how that will happen from that. But there's something else you say. You say one thing that little girls must understand is that no man can give you something that they do not possess. So this is another powerful truth that we fail to, a lot of times. We just ignore it or deny. That is so true. In this case, when we're already in the marriage and we are trying to make it work, let's say, we are dealing with adults. Like my husband is 63, I'm 45. So, and he has a lot of wounds, unhealed parts in him that I can see clearly. So I know he cannot give to me answers, mature, wise answers a lot of times, in the sense of responses to circumstances and situations. Yeah, I'm wondering, how do we dance that dance in a sense of teaching or passing this wisdom to somebody close to us, in a sense of encourage them to see what they have, because we all do have that power within us, the healing power. But
Right.
some of us fail to see that too. So yeah, I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
I feel like change changes people. And so a lot of times, or we're waiting on someone to change, or as the older people get, they're like, oh, they're never going to change. They're too old. They're set in their ways. I think that a lot, if we learn how to change ourselves, then everything around us will change in reaction to our change. So if I have a group of friends and I allow those friends that every time we go out to eat or every time we go somewhere, I always pay and they never, help in that sense. I don't have to complain about what they don't do. I just have to stop doing it. And so when I stop doing this, they will learn. And it doesn't mean that they may stop paying or start paying on when we go out. They may just stop going out with me.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
true.
they will just learn how to alter, and that will be fine. So it would mean, hey, I got what I wanted. I was able to make a change, and by that, the things around me changed. So sometimes you have to lead change by example in order for people around you to do the same thing.
Yes, that's another powerful message that I need to hear. Again, me and pretty much everybody else, most of us, we need to be reminded. Yeah, that goes back to the main topic of our conversation today, which is going from victim to victor, not having that mindset to hold us back. It's ongoing work, isn't it, Trachelle? It doesn't really stop anywhere.
Yeah, Michelle Obama said in her book Becoming, like, you're never arriving.
Yeah, right.
You've never arrived. You're always becoming, and that's very true. When you realize, like, okay, when I turn 40, I haven't just hit the milestone and that's it. I'm always going to be trying, in hopes that I'm always going to be trying to do some work.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. As long as we are open and we're still trying to do the work and doing the work, then good things might happen. Or good change, right? May not be things, but just change. And that's what we need. So we're almost at the end of this conversation today. And I want to thank you again for your presence. Your wisdom is very clear. Your intention is beautiful. And I love the way how true you are with your message. It's very straightforward. And it's exactly what we need to hear. I need to hear for sure.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Trachelle. There's some other notes I made here from part of your book, which is not published yet. You will. Please let me know so I can have that as a note.
I'm going to get on this.
Yeah, let me know. So let's see. When you say, I have grown to learn that I will not hold myself hostage for something that I had no part in creating. So that's another very profound message. Knowing that all the challenges that we went through in life, we didn't create that. It was already there, created by other people. Although I do believe in karma in the sense of mind continuation, that we are coming back here for a reason. I'm not sure if I can elaborate on that. Of course, it has not been established yet, but it really feels like that's what it is. So in a way, we are creating our experiences, but I don't know, for sure.
I think the thing about, and I do agree with you in the aspect of karma, and a lot of times karma to other people sounds really bad.
Yeah,
like it's bad. Like, I think that it's more aligned spiritually to you will reap what you sow, though. And every action we make in the world, when we show up in the world, we're seed planting. So you're dropping pieces of you and pieces of something that's going to grow. So either the seeds are going to be good or they're going to be bad, and they're going to grow.
Right.
and they say, hey, the fruits of your labor or your fruits. So either you're going to have good fruit or you're not. And I think that it's very important to watch how you are in the world. I think it's important to not be bound to things you didn't do. So in relationship or in marriage, as you know, and I'm married as well. And sometimes it's coming together. And so you're like, oh, their things are my things. Their stuff is my stuff. And that's their inner stuff becomes your stuff. And so what you have to learn as a person is to not take on other people's things, or because your trauma is not being worked on, I don't have to be victimized for your trauma.
Right.
Like you I don't have to be bound to that. And that's where the boundaries and the changes and doing the work comes from.
Gosh, you have to publish that book. Your message is
I need to finish next week.
Yes, please. We need to hear that. We need those messages out there. Yes, so true. I mean, it has been now, it's like we're exactly where I am after so many years of work. Exactly, like creating those boundaries, the expectations, becoming more my own guide, not letting those thoughts or the behaviors and the feelings of others to become mine. But that is also part of personality. You probably heard about it, the empathic or empath people. They tend to do that.
Yes.
That's something that I have done my entire life. And now, only now, I'm becoming aware of that empathy has a good per se and not so good side.
Yeah, it's a curse and a gift.
Right. Yeah, exactly that. So I have a few ending questions. Before that, would you like to add anything else you left unsaid or read a passage from the section you sent in your book?
I want to thank you for doing exactly what you do, which is purposeful, and being able to highlight people, big and small, and being able to get out to many people things that they may have heard, may need to hear again, or this could be the conversation that you're having with people could be the thing that sparks somebody's new beginning. And so, although we're writing or things are happening, you are being used and showcasing in your gifts, helping other people's gifts to grow, which is ultimately a part of healing nature because you're helping people do that. So I appreciate you for that and for you being an honest person to be able to share your own messages, which in turn will make a human connection to whomever you speak to.
Thank you, Trachelle, for recognizing that. I have heard that we can see in others what is not in us. So it's almost like a mirror. It's reflecting. So thank you for being that reflection. What 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
The 3 things I wish people would experience, one of them would be to truly come to a place where they've accepted who God is, what he does, and where he's taking them. So to really give their will over to him and follow his will. That's one. The second thing I would hope for everyone is to make peace with people who's had them in a bad place. So to stop making excuses and to go to the people whom have held them bound in their minds and be able to do the work so that that person and them can also be free to make those amends. And then the other thing I would probably say is for everyone to do the thing that they love to do without consequence of the thoughts of others.
Yes, 1,000,000,000 times to all of those truths. Thank you so much for being open to life, open to divine messages, divine energy, which we call God. Some of us might use different names, life, universe, but it's the same thing. It's love. So thank you so much for your presence and everything else in between that could be felt today too, Trachelle. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much again.
And before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, the book that you're writing, your services, and future projects?
Okay, so on Facebook, it's Pop Counseling. So my counseling practice is Progressing on Purpose Counseling. And so to make it jazzy, it's just POP Counseling. And then you can find the same POP Counseling on Instagram. And I am currently getting this book edited so I can get myself together and stop making excuses. And so I'm hopefully will have that done at the top of the year, of course, and then being able to be on Amazon. And then all the places on Instagram and Facebook will be able to find the book when I'm finished.
Yes, wonderful. And please send me the link when you have it. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now, Trachelle.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Trachelle Thomas and her work, please visit popcounseling.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.